Hey everyone, my name is Average, and welcome back to our Nuxt full stack web development series. This is going to be a pretty quick video. It's actually a feature that I'm surprised I'm only getting around to now, to be honest. Although it's not really anything super important, it's more just something that's kind of nice. So, what it is page transitions. So you'll notice that when I go to my about page and my website, like my index page, it's very quick. But it's kind of boring, there's not a whole lot. So I'm going to show you how we can spice things up and make these transitions a little bit more interesting, a little bit more visually appealing. Okay, so we're going to head to our Nuxt config here, and we're actually going to add a new section. We're going to say app, and then curly braces, and in these curly braces, we're going to do page transition, and yeah, name page, mode out in. So this is setting up our page transitions for going in and out of pages. Okay. Now, when you actually run your app now, you'll notice that it is pretty much the same. We actually get a little bit of a breaking issue here. And if we right click and go to inspect console, you'll actually notice down here, about.vue does not have a single root node and will cause errors when navigating between routes. So that's something we can fix super quickly just by going to our about.vue and adding a root div around the content here. Okay. And so when we refresh, now we should be able to navigate back and forth between our about page and our index page here without issue now. Okay, what about the actual transition? Because that doesn't really look like anything. Well, that's actually something we add to our app.vue. And the reason we add it here is because we want this to be a global app style. So there's a couple styles that we need to add. The first one being page enter active and then page leave active. And this is so we can actually set a transition of all. So we're affecting all properties. And we're giving the transition a time of less than half a second here, so 400 milliseconds. And then we're going to do a couple more styles. So page enter from and page leave to. And here we set our opacity to 0. And we're also going to change the filter. And we're going to add a little bit of blur to make it look a bit more visually appealing. So when we go back to our site now, and we refresh our page, we'll notice that things are generally the same. However, when I navigate to the about page here, you'll notice we get this nice little blur effect that actually smoothly transitions us between pages, which I think is quite nice. Okay, so setting individual styles for your transitions is possible too. This is done inside of our script file. So let's say our about.vue, we want to change the transition slightly. So we can say define page meta, and then give it a set of options. First one is page transition, and inside of here, we're going to say rotate. So now when we go to our about page, we'll notice that things are the exact same. Now, why is this? And that's actually because this here dictates what the style should be called. So we have rotate here, but in our app.vue, we only have the styling for page, which we did set up in our Nuxt config, and that's why we're seeing the exact same style. So what we need to do basically is copy and paste these, and we can do rotate instead of page for all of these selectors. Okay, so we're going to make this transition a bit longer. We're going to say 1 second so it's a bit more obvious. We're still going to do the opacity 0, but instead of filtering, we're going to say transform rotate 3D, and then we're going to say 1, 1, 1, and then let's say 45 degrees. Okay, so now when we navigate away from our about page and to our about page, we'll notice that it kind of swings in and swings out from the top there. So it's an interesting transition for sure. Not really my favorite, but that just shows how to do multiple page transitions if you'd like. So I am going to delete the rotate one because I'm not a fan of that. I just did want to show you guys how to do multiple transitions for the separate pages. So now we have this kind of nice transition for all pages. I'm actually going to turn it down to 0.2 seconds just so it is a little bit faster. I do feel like it's a bit slow to pop in. So that's a bit better. Now we have this transition on all of our pages. But what about our layout? Because now when we log in to our user, we'll notice that this just kind of goes, super quickly. Well, this is something we can actually do within our navigation bar. So let's head to there. And what we want to do is change our UL here. So we want to change the unordered list, and we want to give it a transition group like so. And that's basically just going to be the parent now of our list. So another thing we're going to do now is we actually can delete our UL because the transition group is actually able to take on the form of any tag that we want. So we can give it the tag of UL like so. The next thing we can do is give it a name. This name is going to correspond to how the page will transition. So we can say literally page, and this should give us the transitions here. Let's check it out. Let's see if that is the case. We're going to log in, test user, and okay, so it looked a little jittery, to be honest. They kind of bounce in and out. Okay, so why is this? Something that we can do actually is we can add something called a key to each of our elements that are different. So for our div with vif not user, we can give this the key of guest, because guests are going to be seeing this, people who are not logged in. So for our velse, we can say key equals user like so. Maybe we can just do our own layout now, or sorry, our own transition. So let's just say fade nav. And then down here, we're going to just collapse our script, and we're going to make a scoped style tag. And here we're going to have fade nav, enter active, nav leave active, like so. And we're going to say transition, all 0.3 seconds ease. I'm going to make this one quite quick, actually. We only want to do 0.1 seconds because it's something I think we're going to want to see pretty quickly. Okay, so for our fade nav enter from, we're actually not going to do the leave to selector just yet. So we're going to say opacity is 0. And our transform, we're going to rotate this on the y-axis to 10 pixels. So this is actually going to go down. It's going to fade down. So we can have a fade nav leave to as well. We're going to have a similar behavior here. We're going to say transform, translate y, except this is going to be the opposite. This is going to be 10 pixels up. Okay, and then we only have one more selector that we need to do, which is fade nav leave active. And this one, we're going to give all of the active elements a position of absolute, and then we're going to give them right 1 rem, just so we have some padding on the right side. Okay, so when we refresh, we'll notice it's the same. Let's try logging out and seeing how it works. Okay, very nice. So as you can see now, the elements here will not jump around as they did before. They'll just quickly kind of go up and down and fade into one another, which I think is a much better experience. So there you go. We've added some nice transitions to our site just to make things feel a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more nice. And we've also looked at isolating our transitions as well to elements themselves to add a little bit of dynamic behavior within elements on our page. All right, so on top of everything that we've added with transitions, we also want to clear these warnings and errors that we get in here that are all related to the navigation bar and our transitions that we added to. One of the things is in a transition group, everything in here will need a key. This can have a key of, about, right? This is always going to show this list item here. So these are for, this already has a key, guest, and this has a key of user. And I believe that's everything that needs a key, actually. It was just this one element here. So now when we refresh, we should no longer get as many. Yeah, okay, cool. We do also still want to fix this issue here with the hydration mismatch. And that's really just a case of Nuxt doesn't really like having a UL inside of a P tag. So let's see where this is, the list disk item. And I believe that's just this here on the index page there. So we can go to index.vue. So it's this here, the server false. If we get rid of this and we now reload, It will be generated on the server on the fly, so we no longer get that hydration issue because the server already has it. But what if we do actually want to fetch the data from the client? Something we can do is wrap this in a client-only tag, and now this will only be updated and managed on the client. So the server doesn't need to worry about hydration anymore. As you can see, we no longer get that issue. But we do have one last issue, and that is inside of our navigation bar where we're using useAsyncData. So let's head over to our navigation bar, and I believe we just use useAsyncData right here. So the issue is that this is not returning a value on every path. And yeah, that can be seen here. That can be seen here. So it doesn't want a undefined value. So when we reach these guards that we put in place, we can just put a return null, and now we will no longer get that issue. So our server is a lot more error-free now. Oh, we have one more. Input elements should have autocomplete attributes. So for our password, they are suggesting that we use a current password. So this is from Google themselves. We might as well do it. Honestly, I don't see why not. It couldn't hurt, to be honest. So for our password here, we can just do a autocomplete, and we can say current password for our login, right? So we shouldn't get that issue. Okay, we get another issue for the username. They want us to do an autocomplete for that as well with username like so. Okay, no more warnings on here. That's amazing. I don't really want autocomplete for the register page, if I'm being completely honest with you. So we're going to say autocomplete none. And we're going to do that for the input here as well. So both of those are just going to have a none. We don't want any autocomplete for this, even though it still is showing. This is more of a Brave thing than on Chrome. It would show a bit differently, I believe. But what's important is we're no longer getting any warnings. So we have significantly improved our I guess user experience and general flow. No warnings, no issues in the console, which is exactly what we want. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.